flight crew shouted at Black Teen. Minutes later, her call stopped the plane cold. The jet bridge smelled like stale air and plastic coffee cups as 17-year-old Amira Cole stepped into the plane. She clutched her backpack close to her chest, earbuds in but music off, just to block out the world. Wearing a worn gray hoodie, jeans, and sneakers, she didn't look like someone important. And that's exactly how she wanted it. She found her seat, 15A, a window seat near the front of economy. The flight to Washington, D.C. was already filling up. Passengers were bumping bags, flight attendants smiled thinly as they helped load overhead bins, and a crying toddler echoed somewhere behind her. Amira slid into her seat, trying to disappear. Then it started. A flight attendant with platinum blonde hair and a clipped voice appeared beside her. Her name tag read Melissa. She glanced down, frowning. "Excuse me, are you supposed to be in this seat?" Amira looked up, removing one earbud. "Yes, 15A. Melissa narrowed her eyes. "I think this row is reserved for priority passengers." "Are you flying economy basic?" Amira blinked, confused. "No, I'm in Group 2. My mom booked the ticket." Melissa didn't bother checking the boarding pass. "Well, you need to move back. You're in the wrong seat." Amira's voice remained calm, but her fingers tightened around the backpack strap. "This is my seat." The man sitting across the aisle looked over. He wore a suit and an amused smirk. Melissa turned to a second flight attendant walking up the aisle, taller, older, name tag reading Derek. "She's not in the right seat," Melissa said. "Can you check this?" Amira held out her boarding pass without saying a word. Derek took it, scanned, and froze. "It says 15A. Melissa leaned in to see. "That can't be right." "It is," Derek replied flatly. "It's a priority ticket." Melissa looked Amira over again, skepticism written all over her face. "Are you sure someone didn't book this by mistake?" That was it. The question wasn't about the seat anymore. It was about her. "Is there a problem because I'm young or because I'm black?" Amira asked quietly. A couple of passengers nearby glanced up from their phones. Melissa quickly backpedaled. "No, not at all. We just need to confirm everything is correct. Security is very strict these days." Amira took a breath, picked up her phone, and tapped a single name on her favorites list. No hesitation. The call went out. She spoke into the phone, her voice low but calm. "Hey, it's me. I need you to do that thing we talked about. Yes, it's happening again." Melissa tried to interrupt. "Ma'am, phone calls aren't allowed right now." Amira held up a finger, still on the line. "Thanks, I'll stay put." She hung up. Melissa's posture stiffened. "Who exactly did you call?" Amira didn't answer. She looked out the window, earbuds back in place. Then, within 3 minutes, the plane stopped boarding. The PA system crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay. Please remain in your seats." Melissa's radio buzzed. She stepped aside to listen, eyes darting toward Amira, then toward the front of the plane. Her lips moved but made no sound. She turned pale. A sharply dressed man in his 40s stepped onto the plane, clean cut, wearing a dark navy suit. His badge wasn't visible, but his presence spoke volumes. He approached Melissa and Derek. "Where is passenger Cole?" Derek pointed toward Amira's seat, speechless. The man nodded, then approached Amira and offered his hand. "Miss Cole." "I apologize for the disruption." Melissa's face flushed. "Wait. Who is she?" The man looked at Melissa. "That's above your pay grade." Whispers spread through the cabin like wildfire. A woman behind Amira murmured, "She must be somebody." The suited man turned to the flight attendants. "Until further notice, you are to stay away from Miss Cole. Understood?" Melissa stammered. "I didn't mean anything. I thought—" "You assumed," the man said. "That assumption just cost your career a lot more than you think." As he turned and left the aircraft, Amira remained quiet, staring out the window, but her reflection in the glass revealed a ghost of a smile. Passengers around her avoided eye contact. One even leaned over, whispering, "You okay?" Amira nodded. "I'm used to it." But she wasn't. Every time it happened, it burned a little deeper. This time, though, she wasn't just going to sit quietly and take it. She was done blending in. And this flight? This flight was only the beginning. The hum of the engines was steady, but the atmosphere inside the plane had shifted. The tension that had rippled through the cabin still lingered, heavy and electric. Melissa and Derek stayed glued to the galley, whispering in tight, anxious tones. Amira remained in her seat, quiet and unmoved, though her mind was racing. The man who had stepped onto the plane moments ago, Agent Ron Harlan, was no stranger to her. He was one of the few people allowed to have direct contact with her in public spaces. His sudden appearance wasn't part of the plan. He was only supposed to intervene if things got out of hand. Clearly, things had. A boy about Amira's age sat across the aisle, wide-eyed. His hoodie was pulled halfway over his face, but curiosity was written all over it. After a few silent minutes, he leaned over. "Hey, that was kinda crazy." "Are you like someone important?" Amira turned her head, scanning his face. Kind eyes, no mocking, just genuine interest. She didn't answer directly. "I'm just someone who got tired of being shouted at." He smirked. "Fair enough. I'm KJ, by the way." "Amira." "Nice to meet you, Amira who stops planes." She couldn't help but laugh, just a little. It was the first break in her composure since the incident, but peace was fleeting. Derek returned to her row, voice forced and robotic. "Miss Cole, can I get you anything to drink?" "No, thank you," Amira said without looking up. "I just want to say, for the record, we weren't trying to single you out." "It's been a long day. Mistakes happen." She turned to face him, calm but direct. "A mistake is forgetting a drink order. A mistake is losing someone's luggage. What happened earlier? That was a choice." Derek blinked, caught off guard. "We're trying to make things right. Then let it start by not pretending you didn't see what you saw." With that, she turned away. Derek stood there for a second, then walked back toward the galley, shaken. 10 minutes later, the captain's voice came through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're currently experiencing a delay from air traffic control. We'll be taxiing shortly. Thank you for your patience." But Amira knew that wasn't true. The delay wasn't from traffic control. It was from the chain reaction she'd set off. A reaction that was now moving beyond the aircraft. Back at the terminal, in a quiet, soundproof room, a woman in her 50s was staring at a monitor. Her name was Charlene Boswell, Senior Director of Aviation Security for the Eastern Corridor. Her screen showed a paused image of Melissa leaning over Amira, finger pointed, jaw tight. The playback resumed. The words were muffled, but the body language was unmistakable. Charlene exhaled sharply and picked up the phone. "Get me the airline's executive liaison. I want the full personnel file on both attendants, and I want eyes on every passenger with high-level clearance who's been moved under false pretenses. This is the third one this quarter." The aide on the other end hesitated. "Is this about the Cole girl?" "It's not just about her," Charlene said. "It's about the pattern. She just happens to be the one who pushed back." Charlene hung up and sat still for a moment, tapping her pen on the table. Meanwhile, 30,000 feet away, Amira was reviewing her messages. Her phone buzzed silently with a secure notification. The reply came in. Step 1 confirmed. Public acknowledgement pending. Prepare for next phase. She locked the screen and slid it into her hoodie pocket. It was time to move past being a symbol. She had a mission now, but she wasn't the only one paying attention. 3 rows behind her, a man in his late 40s wearing a faded baseball cap and a too-clean travel jacket had been pretending to sleep since boarding. Now, as the plane finally began to taxi, he cracked one eye open and watched Amira from behind his sunglasses. He muttered into a tiny lapel mic clipped just beneath his collar. "She's here. Confirmed identity. Appears to have initiated sequence early." The response came through an earpiece. "Observe only. Do not engage." The man leaned back, lips curled in a half-smile. The girl wasn't just some random teen. She was part of something much, much bigger. And this flight? It was heading straight into a storm. The cabin lights dimmed slightly as the plane reached cruising altitude, casting a muted glow over the passengers. The hum of the engines masked most conversations, but the tension hadn't left. If anything, it had morphed into something colder: suspicion, unease, and quiet curiosity. People were whispering, glancing toward Amira as if she were some mysterious figure they couldn't quite place. Melissa paced in the galley, her nerves fraying. She had been a flight attendant for over 12 years. She'd dealt with unruly passengers, mid-air medical emergencies, and even a celebrity meltdown once. But this? A teenager who managed to ground a plane with a single phone call? "I'm telling you, Derek," she hissed. "This isn't just some spoiled brat throwing a tantrum. Something's going on." Derek leaned on the counter, rubbing his temples. "She's just a kid, Melissa. Maybe she's some big shot's daughter, or a rich influencer." Either way, yelling at her wasn't the smartest move. Melissa scoffed. "I don't care who she is. You saw how she looked at me." Like she was in control the whole time. Before Derek could respond, a chime from the cockpit interrupted them. It was the captain. "Melissa, Derek, I need both of you up front." "Now." They exchanged a glance and hurried forward, hearts thumping. Inside the cockpit, Captain Ray Morrison wore a grim expression. "We just received a direct message from the Department of Homeland Security." "Not routed through the airline, straight federal." Melissa blinked. "Wait, about the girl?" Captain Morrison nodded. "They've confirmed the girl's identity is classified, but warned us in no uncertain terms. No further confrontation, no forced deboarding, and no public statements. She is to be treated with utmost discretion." "Are you serious?" Melissa's voice rose. "She started it. I was following protocol." "Protocol doesn't matter anymore," the captain snapped. "From this point forward, she is hands off. You make eye contact if she speaks." "That's it." Melissa's mouth hung open, but no words came. Meanwhile, back in the cabin, KJ had shifted seats to sit beside Amira. He was clearly intrigued and maybe a little in awe, but Amira appreciated the company. It made her feel more grounded. "So, that message you got earlier, the secure one. Was that like, from the government or something?" Amira studied him for a moment. She wasn't sure how much she could reveal, but something about KJ's honest eyes gave her pause. "It was from someone who makes sure people like me don't end up silenced," she said. "Let's just say I wasn't flying commercial today by accident." KJ whistled low. "You're on some kind of mission?" Amira looked out the window, the clouds glowing like cotton in the moonlight. "Not a mission. More like a test." Just then, a sudden jolt shook the aircraft. The plane dipped slightly before evening out again. A few passengers yelped, gripping armrests. The captain's voice came over the intercom, calm but strained. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've encountered a patch of unexpected turbulence. Please return to your seats and fasten your seat belts. Amira knew better. That wasn't turbulence. Moments later, she saw the man in the faded baseball cap, still seated behind her, press a button on his armrest. A quiet light blinked green near his tray. He was communicating. She leaned to KJ, voice low. See that guy? Row 17, window seat? KJ followed her gaze. Yeah? He's not a passenger. KJ stared. Like, air marshal? Amira shook her head slowly. Worse. As if on cue, the man stood and casually made his way toward the restroom, but Amira saw it, the shift in his gait, the hand brushing his side pocket. He wasn't going to the restroom. She got up. Wait, where are you going? KJ asked. I need to see someone, she said. She walked past rows of passengers and slipped toward the back, disappearing into the service hallway near the lavatories. A hidden latch opened a small compartment, no larger than a narrow closet. Inside was a device no ordinary passenger had access to, a secured communications relay. She keyed in a sequence. A voice came through immediately. Go ahead, Blackbird. Amira took a breath. I think we've got a tail. Male, white, late 40s, posing as a passenger. Row 17, his comm light just activated during fake turbulence. Copy. Stay seated. We're dispatching intercept orders. Target is flagged for rogue surveillance not authorized. You think he's working for someone else? We suspect foreign intel with domestic contracts. Someone leaked the manifest. We'll confirm soon. Amira stepped back, closed the hatch, and returned to her seat, heart pounding. She sat beside KJ like nothing had happened. You're scaring me a little, he whispered. You're not the only one, she murmured. 30 minutes later, the pilot announced they'd be making an unscheduled landing in Raleigh for technical evaluation. No one believed it. But no one questioned it either. As the wheels touched down and the aircraft slowed, a convoy of unmarked vehicles approached the tarmac. Amira kept her eyes on the man in row 17. This wasn't over. Not even close. And by the time they reached the terminal, the true enemy would no longer be just inside the plane. They'd be waiting outside. The landing was smoother than expected, but the silence inside the cabin was deafening. Nobody clapped, nobody cheered. It was like every soul on board had collectively decided to hold their breath. Amira watched through the oval window as the convoy of dark SUVs approached the aircraft. Men in plain suits, earpieces in, moved with calm precision. The kind of calm that came from authority and danger. Captain Morrison's voice came over the PA again, careful and rehearsed. Ladies and gentlemen, we've made a short stop in Raleigh due to a technical irregularity. Please remain seated while we complete standard ground checks. Technical irregularity. Right. The flight crew moved stiffly, their smiles strained. Melissa passed through the aisle, her voice soft as she instructed passengers to stay buckled. But when she reached Amira's row, their eyes met for a beat too long. Melissa looked away. In the rear of the cabin, the man from row 17 stood up slowly, stretching like he had all the time in the world. His body language screamed casual, but his eyes were locked onto Amira like a predator waiting for the perfect moment. He grabbed his coat from the overhead bin, then began moving toward the exit row, despite instructions to stay seated. Melissa noticed. Sir, I need you to take your seat until we're cleared to deboard. He didn't even acknowledge her. Just kept walking. Amira was already rising. KJ, stay here, she said, her voice low but firm. Are you serious? Amira, what is happening? I need to stop him before he makes contact. She stepped into the aisle, intercepting the man near the galley. You're not supposed to be up. she said, her tone steady. He smiled thinly. Neither are you. Melissa was frozen behind them, torn between intervening and staying out of whatever power struggle she had unknowingly unleashed. You activated a secure channel mid-flight. Who are you reporting to? The man asked. You already know the answer, or you wouldn't be here, Amira replied. I wasn't expecting someone your age. That's the point. The man took a slow breath. You shouldn't be interfering in things you don't fully understand. And you shouldn't be on this plane. Then, in one fluid motion, the man reached for his coat pocket. Amira's hand was already there. They struggled for a split second before the back galley door burst open. FBI! A voice shouted. Hands where I can see them! The man didn't move fast enough. He was tackled from behind by two plainclothes agents in seconds, pinned to the floor while passengers screamed in confusion. KJ leaned into the aisle, his mouth open as he watched Amira calmly step back and raise her hands to show she wasn't resisting. What in the world is going on? Melissa gasped. Amira turned to her. You'll get your answer soon, but for now, stay out of the way. From the cockpit, Captain Morrison emerged, shock written all over his face. Are we being hijacked? No, said one of the agents as they cuffed the man. But someone tried to hijack something bigger than this plane. As they led the man down the aisle, Amira followed. Passengers craned their necks to watch, murmuring theories. When Amira reached the jet bridge, a tall woman in a gray suit was waiting. Her badge gleamed in the overhead light. She looked to be in her late 40s, hair tightly braided, posture military. Agent Langston, the woman greeted. Good work, we've got him. Amira exhaled. He was tailing me. Probably got wind of the mission and inserted himself on the passenger manifest. The woman nodded. We'll scrub the crew again, too. No chances. Back inside the aircraft, Melissa and Derek stood by the galley, stunned. That girl, Melissa whispered, her voice hollow. She's not just some government kid, is she? No, said Captain Morrison, overhearing her. She's someone a lot of powerful people don't want flying commercial. Back at the gate, Amira's phone buzzed. Unknown, secure contact. Stage 2 cleared. Hold position. She locked the screen. KJ, who had insisted on following her off the plane despite protests, caught up beside her. So are you going to tell me now? Amira offered him a small smile. Let's just say this flight was never about getting from LA to DC. It was about seeing who'd try to stop me along the way. KJ shook his head. And here I thought I was sitting next to some quiet girl with a good playlist. You were, Amira said, then turned toward the airport windows, where two more black SUVs pulled onto the tarmac. But the playlist just changed. As the agents led the suspect into one of the vehicles, Amira looked back at the plane. This wasn't just a diversion. Someone knew what she carried, and they hadn't even reached the halfway point yet. The airport conference room was bare and sterile, white walls, humming fluorescents, and a stale pot of untouched coffee sitting in the corner. Amira sat across from Agent Rhodes, the same sharp-eyed woman who met her at the gate. Beside her, KJ looked equal parts overwhelmed and annoyed, drumming his fingers restlessly on the tabletop. Rhodes folded her hands and studied Amira in silence, then finally spoke. We intercepted the call 5 minutes after you made it. He was already flagged from a previous operation in Berlin. We thought he was out of commission. Amira leaned back, voice calm. That's the thing with ghosts. They don't disappear. They just wait for the right airspace. Rhodes smirked slightly, impressed. You've grown since Langley. KJ's eyes bounced between them. Wait, Langley? You're talking about the CIA Langley? No, Amira said dryly. The Langley Deli on 5th. KJ sat back, stunned. Are you telling me I've been sharing snacks with a government agent this whole time? I'm not an agent, Amira said. Not officially. Rhodes cut in. She's something else. Off books. High-level clearance. She was activated only because of the nature of this mission. KJ threw up his hands. What mission? I thought we were going to DC for some debate thing. Amira turned to him. That was real. The debate competition is a cover and a message. Because someone's been leaking sensitive information through education databases. They thought it was some rogue professor, but it's deeper. Rhodes handed over a tablet. The screen showed an encrypted chat thread with coded messages routed through academic portals. KJ frowned. Why use schools to smuggle intel? Because nobody questions a kid uploading homework at 2 a.m., Amira said. Especially not a kid who gets perfect grades and doesn't cause trouble. Rhodes added, The suspect you helped us identify? He's ex-military intelligence, disavowed 3 years ago. Since then, he's been using commercial flights to track young couriers. That's why he was watching me, Amira said. More than watching. He boarded that flight to intercept you before the packet could reach DC. KJ blinked. Wait, packet? What are you carrying? Amira reached into her backpack and pulled out a thumb drive in a generic keychain. She placed it gently on the table. This holds a list of compromised field agents across 5 continents, she said. It was encrypted and passed down through multiple civilian carriers. I'm the final link. Rhodes looked toward the window. You have no idea how close we came to losing that list. Or you. Amira exhaled. So what now? You're not flying commercial again. From here you'll be escorted undercover until you reach the Pentagon. But there's a wrinkle. Rhodes tapped the tablet again. A new face appeared on the screen, a stern woman with silver hair and icy eyes. This is Director Evelyn Grant. She's the one who authorized the operation, and she's requested to meet you in person, tonight. Amira's face changed. Evelyn Grant? I thought she was forced into early retirement. She was, which is why this makes no sense. But she insists it's urgent. KJ raised a brow. You mean the boss of your boss just unretired herself to talk to you? Apparently, Amira said, her voice darker now. And Evelyn doesn't make casual requests. Rhodes pushed back her chair and stood. You've got 1 hour, then wheels up. Until then, stay in this room. And keep that drive in your sight. After Rhodes left, the room fell quiet. KJ sat forward. So this is your life. People trying to kill you over USBs? Amira smiled faintly. No, usually it's SD cards. USBs are for special occasions. KJ laughed, but there was a nervousness under it. Why you, though? He asked quietly. Why not someone older, someone who's trained longer? Amira looked at him for a long moment. Because I blend in. I'm the kid no one expects. And because sometimes the most dangerous person on the plane is the one everyone overlooks. Then her phone buzzed again. Another secure message. Change of plans. You're flying commercial. DC, first class. Flight departs in 2 hours. Amira's eyes narrowed. That doesn't make sense, KJ said. Why put you back in public? Because someone wants me visible, Amira said. Which means they want me to know they're watching. She picked up the USB, slid it back into her backpack, and zipped it tight. KJ stood too. Well, I'm coming with you. You're not trained. I'm not stupid either. They looked at each other, both understanding that whatever happened next was going to be bigger than what either of them signed up for. And this time, it wouldn't be just a rude flight crew or a nosy passenger. It would be the people pulling strings from places no light ever reached. And Amira was ready to cut every single one. The airport tarmac at night was eerily quiet, save for the distant whine of engines powering down and the occasional flicker of floodlights washing over the runways. Amira stood near Gate C-29, flanked by two plainclothes officers pretending to be airline staff. Her backpack was slung casually over her shoulder, but her body language was anything but casual. KJ trailed behind her, nervously sipping from a vending machine water bottle he'd barely opened. He was trying to act normal, but his eyes kept scanning the shadows. "You sure about this?" he muttered. "Feels like we're walking into a trap." Amira didn't answer right away. She checked the time. The boarding announcement had been delayed twice already. Her instincts buzzed like static. "We are walking into a trap," she said finally. "I just plan to walk out of it." The gate agent, a balding man with a fake smile and a shiny name tag that read Jeff, called them forward. "First-class pre-boarders, right this way." KJ hesitated, but Amira gave him a subtle nod. "Stick close. If anything feels off, follow my lead." As they stepped onto the jet bridge, a new flight attendant appeared to greet them. A woman in her early 50s with ice-blonde hair pulled into a tight bun and a clipped British accent. "Welcome aboard. Miss Ellis, Mr. Parker, please follow me to your seats." Amira narrowed her eyes. "You know our names?" The attendant smiled without blinking. "Of course. The captain requested you be treated with exceptional care tonight." Amira's hand instinctively brushed her side, where her phone rested under her jacket. She followed the woman down the aisle anyway, her mind racing. Their first-class seats were pristine, untouched. 2 glasses of chilled sparkling water, already waiting. "Settle in," the attendant said. "We'll be wheels up shortly." As she walked away, Amira leaned toward KJ. "She's not crew. She's an asset." KJ's face drained of color. "So, we're not just being watched, we're being baited?" Amira nodded. "And whoever's watching wants to see what I'll do when I know it." Before KJ could respond, a voice came over the intercom. Not the usual smooth corporate tone. This voice was deeper, measured. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Flight 718 to Washington, D.C. This is your captain speaking. I'd like to extend a personal greeting to 2 of our very special passengers tonight, Miss Amira Ellis and her friend." KJ jerked upright in his seat. "He just said your name." "On the PA." Amira's fingers clenched the armrest. "He's making it public, trying to scare me," the captain continued. "We hope you enjoy the flight, especially you, Miss Ellis. You've stirred up quite the storm." Then the intercom cut off. The silence that followed was thick. KJ looked like he was about to throw up. Amira pulled out her phone and typed a code. An encrypted app popped open, ready for a distress signal. But just before she could hit send, a shadow moved beside her. The blonde attendant was back, smiling too wide. "Would you like a warm towel?" "No," Amira said, locking eyes with her. "I'd like the truth. Who are you working for?" The woman didn't flinch. "Same people you are, just not on your side." Before Amira could react, the woman leaned in close and whispered, "Evelyn Grant isn't who you think she is, and she sent me to deliver a message." Amira's heart pounded. "Say it. She wants to meet, alone, no tech. No backup. And she said, if you don't show, the names on that drive will start disappearing." With that, the woman stood and walked away, blending into the rest of the cabin crew as if nothing had happened. KJ was already halfway out of his seat. What did she say? What does she mean, start disappearing? Amira didn't answer immediately. Her fingers moved fast, wiping the tablet drive clean of local logs and isolating the data. She's threatening the agents. If I don't hand this over or show up alone, they'll start killing them. KJ's jaw dropped. But why? She's CIA, right? On our side? Amira looked toward the cockpit. Not anymore. If she ever was. Just then, the plane began to taxi. Amira leaned back in her seat, her pulse pounding, her mind running through every scenario, every exit strategy. This wasn't a mission anymore. It was a war, and the battlefield wasn't just a plane at 30,000 feet. It was the truth. And the people willing to bury it. The cabin lights dimmed to a soft blue hue as the aircraft reached cruising altitude. Passengers settled into their seats, pulling out headphones, sipping drinks, oblivious to the quiet war unfolding in first class. Amira sat frozen, her mind running through tactical options like a chess master playing 6 games at once. KJ shifted beside her, trying and failing to look relaxed. So, what's the play? He whispered. Amira's voice was low, calm. I give them what they want, but not in the way they expect. From the corner of her eye, she spotted the same blonde attendant re-emerge, this time holding a tray with 2 small desserts. She walked with eerie grace, her eyes never quite blinking, her smile too perfect. Amira knew that kind of smile. It meant backup was nearby. As the woman approached, Amira leaned forward, looking her dead in the eyes. You should tell Evelyn that bluffing with lives she can't afford to lose is a mistake. The attendant didn't respond. She simply placed the desserts down, bowed slightly, and whispered, There's still time to walk away. She doesn't want to do this. Amira glanced at KJ. And I don't bluff either. The woman turned and walked away. Just then, a different crew member, this one a stocky man with a crew cut and a cold stare, walked down the aisle, pausing 2 rows back. He looked like he belonged in a security detail, not serving peanuts. They're not going to wait until we land, Amira muttered. KJ leaned in. You think they'll make a move mid-air? Amira nodded. They don't want this getting to DC. Once I connect with the Pentagon, it's game over. She opened her laptop discreetly, her fingers flying over the keyboard. A hidden file decrypted, revealing a list of covert operatives buried inside the agency's encrypted records, people tied to Evelyn Grant's unauthorized operations. These weren't just assets. Some were journalists, whistleblowers, foreign diplomats, all gone silent within the last year. This is why she wants it, Amira said. This proves everything. Suddenly, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. Due to unforeseen technical difficulties, we'll be making an emergency landing in Louisville. This is only precautionary. Amira froze. KJ's eyes widened. There's nothing wrong with this plane, he whispered. This is a setup. Yeah, Amira replied. They want us off this aircraft, away from witnesses. She reached under her seat and removed a second phone, one that had been off until now. She turned it on and pressed a single button. Somewhere, hundreds of miles away, a secure server lit up. And then another, and another. What did you just do? KJ asked. I triggered the release protocol, Amira said. If we don't arrive at DC, within 3 hours the files go public, every single one of them. KJ blinked. You built a dead man's switch? I don't take chances with the truth. The cabin began to stir as the flight crew prepared for descent. But instead of routine instructions, the tone turned stern. Passengers are advised to remain seated. Security personnel will escort several guests off the plane first. KJ muttered, "This is going south fast." Two large men in TSA windbreakers appeared near the front, holding tablets and scanning the cabin. One pointed toward Amira's row. "That's her." Before they could step forward, Amira stood and calmly held up her badge, not the fake student ID, not her travel documentation. This was the real deal, issued by a higher office than the TSA had clearance to question. Amira Ellis, Department of Strategic Intelligence, Sub-Director Clearance. This plane does not land anywhere unless I say so. The two agents paused. One of them squinted at the badge. "Ma'am, we were told—" She cut him off. "You were told wrong. I have reason to believe this aircraft is compromised, and that your orders came from a source under federal investigation. Do you want to be part of obstruction of justice?" The agent hesitated, then whispered something into his earpiece. Moments later, his partner's face went pale. They both stepped back. "Understood," he said. "We'll notify the captain." As they disappeared, KJ sat back, stunned. "Did that just work?" Amira exhaled slowly. "For now, but Evelyn's not done. She'll try again before we land." She looked down at the tablet, then at her watch. 47 minutes to DC. Let's see if she still thinks she's in control when the world sees what she's been hiding. In the cockpit, the pilot listened to two voices arguing over his headset, his real superior from Air Command and another he wasn't authorized to question. And in the shadowy network of classified command rooms, Evelyn Grant stared at a blinking light on her screen. It had started, and she was no longer the one giving the orders. The descent into Washington, D.C. felt like a slow unraveling of tension. Every mile closer peeled back another layer of danger. Amira sat still, calm on the surface, but her eyes flicked between the window and the seatbelt light. The plane had leveled out, the emergency landing order reversed under quiet but firm instructions from Federal Command. And yet, she knew better than to relax. KJ leaned in. "You really think Evelyn's just going to give up?" Amira's answer was short. "She's desperate, not stupid. If she's got a final play, it's coming before we hit that runway." The pilot's voice cracked over the speakers. "We'll begin final approach in 10 minutes. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." A hum of relief passed through the cabin, but Amira's fingers tightened around the encrypted drive in her pocket. That's when she saw it. The blonde attendant again, her face pale now, her eyes darting nervously. She knelt beside an elderly passenger up front, whispering something with an urgency that didn't match a simple drink order. Then she handed him a napkin. Amira squinted. The man wasn't a regular passenger. It hit her like lightning. The real threat wasn't from the crew anymore. It was from someone Evelyn had placed on board, someone hidden in plain sight. She shot to her feet. "KJ," she hissed, "Row 1C, get his bag." "What? Now?" "That's not his carry-on. That's Evelyn's backup plan." KJ moved fast, slipping past a startled couple and yanking the leather duffel from under the seat. The man turned, grabbed KJ's arm. "Sir, that's my—" Amira stepped forward, voice ringing out with authority. "Sit down. You are being detained under federal investigation." The man's expression flickered. Panic. Anger, then calm. But it was too late. Amira ripped open the bag. Inside, a jamming device, small enough to hide in a purse, powerful enough to block high-security signals within a 10-mile radius. No wonder Evelyn was confident. She hadn't tried to stop the upload. She'd tried to silence it before it started. Amira dropped the device and crushed it with her heel. The blinking light inside died. "Nice try," she said, "but you never could outmaneuver me." As security moved in, the man was restrained. The blonde attendant stood frozen, then quietly backed into the galley, surrendering without a word. When the plane touched down at Reagan National, the tarmac was already swarming. Federal agents, unmarked vehicles, and men in suits waiting with stern faces and clipped radios. KJ exhaled. "That's our ride?" "No," Amira said. "That's the future arriving." They were escorted down the steps, past confused passengers watching from the terminal windows. And in that moment, as Amira stepped onto solid ground, her phone buzzed. One notification, upload complete, files released. News outlets were already picking it up. Corruption, cover-ups, black sites, names. Everything Evelyn had buried was rising like a tide she could no longer hold back. Later that night, in a quiet office high above DC, Evelyn Grant sat in front of her laptop. Every channel, every feed, every whisper spoke the same name: Amira Ellis. She knew it was over. And across the screen, in bold font, a government email confirmed it. She was officially suspended, pending federal investigation. Her empire had crumbled in the time it took one black teenager to stand up, make a call, and refuse to back down. Amira didn't ask for praise. She didn't need applause. She did what was right, and now systems were being forced to change. But as she stood looking out across the city skyline, KJ stepped beside her. "Didn't think being shouted at on a plane would lead to all this." Amira smirked. "Funny how justice works. Sometimes it starts with a whisper, sometimes with a scream." He nodded. "So what now?" She turned to him, eyes steady. "Now we keep going. Because this was just one flight. But there are thousands more out there, filled with people who think they can't fight back. I want them to know they can. This is more than a story about a girl on a plane. This is about every voice that's been shouted down, every truth that's been ignored, and every system that needs to be held accountable. If you believe in justice, in truth, in fighting back even when it's hard, then this is your story too. Support stories like these. Subscribe to our channel, share the message, and be part of the change. Because one voice can stop a plane, but together, we can stop the whole system.